Welcome to Connected Conversations. I am Elena Petrova, founder and CEO of Astra Inc. Let's share the inspiring stories, strengthen our bonds, and pave the way for a brighter future, one conversation at a time. Welcome to Connected Conversations. Thank you for joining us today, where we have unfiltered conversations with the community leaders. And I always say that those are local communities and international communities. Today, for me, is a very special conversation because I am no longer in Washington, D.C. Today, we are having a conversation from Buenos Aires, Argentina. And our guest today is Elena Maugere. Did I pronounce your name right?
Maugere, yes.
Maugere.
Elena Maugere.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us in Buenos Aires. And I know it's very hectic for you today because you are actually flying to U.S. Today, right after the podcast, you're going to be heading to New York.
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me. And yes, I really appreciate that you make the time to interview me and have this time with you.
We appreciate your time because I know it's not that easy to jump on the podcast and then jump on the plane and fly to New York. So tell us a little bit about you. And I always ask this. This is the question that I start. How many languages do you speak?
Just Spanish, my mother tongue, and English that I learned when I was 31 years old.
Wow!
So it's not a very native for me. It's a language that I learned how to speak when I was living in USA and Boston. So for 8 years, and I studied there. So I have to learn it.
Yeah, and your English is perfect, and you are using this language today without an interpreter. Again, thank you very much for joining us.
I will try to do my best.
Yes, thank you. So tell us a little bit about you. Where do you come from?
I actually born in Lima, in Peru, but my whole family, my parents are from here, from Buenos Aires, Argentina. And at the end of the 60s, in 1960 67, they decided to go to Peru to look for better ways of living, new jobs. And my oldest brother, and I born there. And I lived there until 1984, when they decided to came back to Argentina because the democracy started again here in Argentina during the last 10 years before that. So during the 70s, there was a military government here. So during that time, they were living in Peru. And when when democracy came, the president Alfonsín came, rise, they decided to come here again, to come back to their country. So my brother and I came alone. And I studied the secondary school here, the high school here, and the university. I studied at the University of Buenos Aires. I'm a physical therapist. But first, before that, I was a gymnast, artistic gymnast. Not a very high level, but fair enough to do backflips and something in the air. And at my 18 years old, I started working with girls in the gymnastics, and I was for 10 years a coach. And that is my base of what I'm doing now. During 10 years, I worked with a very high level of gymnasts that were from the Argentinian team. And I didn't know at that time, but I learned a lot about biomechanics and how the forces of gravity and angles and forces around our body make us to do any movement. And when I was 25 years old, I started to study at the University of Buenos Aires to be a physical therapy. And my main objective at that time was to be a physical therapy for sports, for sports health. But promptly to graduate 6 years later, because here is 6 years of studies as a physical therapist, I finished when I was 31 years old. Promptly to graduate, I already started working in the PT facility as a helper. And there were adults and children, and some of those children were disabled children, with developmental disabilities, and attract my attention.
And why is that? Because I've been watching the videos online, and I'm talking to our listeners. You definitely need to take a look at the Instagram account. What you have done and keep doing with these children that you are helping, it's incredible. I've seen
Yes,
a lot of work with the physical therapy.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing magic.
No, it's not magic. It's not magic, and it's not. There isn't something that comes from one day to the other. I build that. What I'm doing, I built that. At 31 years old, I was with the guy who was then my husband, and he asked me to go to Boston because he went to the MIT to study a master's degree at the MIT. So I went to study English. I accompanied him to study English, and I studied for 1 year. And then we decided to stay there. He wanted to build a company, so I applied to university, and I get to the Mass General Hospital Institute of Health Professions. That at that time was ranked fifth in the country in physical therapists. And I did my master's in 3 years master's in physical therapy with a specialization in neuropediatrics. Then my kids born. I have 2 boys. Very proud mom of 2 beautiful boys, 18 and 17 now. One is studying in United States, so I'm flying tonight to visit him. And then we came back at the end of 2010, and a friend of mine introduced me in this new method that is what I'm working on. That is the name of the method is Cuevas Medek Exercise, Medek. And the man who developed this method is Ramon Cuevas. He lives in Chile, in Santiago de Chile, and he's a great teacher. And he developed this method that put the children in challenging positions to make new connections in his brain. Usually, the method to work with children with developmental disabilities is a 100 years of method that is always to put the children in an exoskeleton body, to put ortheses, walkers, things to keep his thorax straight, and nothing to improve his brain, nothing to make new connections. And what this physical therapy from Chile did, Ramon Cuevas, to start to see which movement make challenges in these little boys or girls, to put them in really challenges positions. And he started to see that the brain in those challenges positions make new connections and new movements that are genetically in our brain, genetically in each of our neurons. So I studied with him. I went 7 times to Chile to study with him. He taught me everything he knew, everything he already teaches to everybody. Now, anyone who wants to learn his methods, you can learn from him. But these last years, I started to bring up all the biomechanics that I learned in my years of being a coach, as a gymnast coach.
So you connected to
Exactly.
different approaches.
And I see how the gravity goes through your body, impact in the floor, go straight up. So I combine I'm everything. I'm physical therapy in my first study. I'm also a coach. I am also Cuevas Medek Exercise practitioner, and I'm also developing this new way of seeing my patients, my children, the children that I work, through all the forces that go through their bodies. When I see people around walking, I start to see all the gravity, how the forces around the body goes to make us walk, for example.
Right.
You know? And the difference, I think, in me from another therapist is that I explain a lot. I talk a lot during the sessions. So the sessions are really fun. I think I have this problem with concentration, HDD or something like that. I think I have something like that because I cannot be in silence working with my patient. I need to talk, explaining or talking about anything.
So you're talking to children, you're probably talking to parents too, getting parents involved into
Of course, the parent has to be parents or the caregivers, or some caregivers, or sometimes are the grandparents, caregivers, uncles, aunts, or it's best if the parents are there. Always I work with parents because the movements are very challenging, and sometimes are very difficult. So I sometimes need help if the child cannot respond as I hope, and the parent has to be there to hold in or anything that can happen. The child cannot get hurt. Never can get hurt.
That is amazing. And our podcast, so basically how we started this podcast, we thought about the fact that the only way to bring positive change to this world is through the communities. Mm-hmm. And if different communities will start making those incremental changes, that ultimately, as cheesy as it sounds, we can change the world one step at a time, one community at a time. And so you are doing this by having those conversations and getting as many people as possible involved into, let's say, one child life, right? Because you're saying you want to have caregivers involved, parents involved, whoever comes to your session. What is community to you, and how you get this all work together? Because in your case, it was the program that you learned in school, then the coaching method, then the method that you learned in Chile. So kind of like those are all different pieces of different communities. Then you build your own community. And now you're talking it through with the people that come to see you. I find it very interesting, the dynamics.
What I want the community that I'm around is to see a children with developmental disability. They have possibilities.
Right.
I want the community to see that the child with developmental disability has possibilities. It's not just a child to be on the chair. That child, if you put it in different situations, you are going to be amazed how many things he can do with his body. And not only with his body, because after he starts to improve his movement, he's going to start talking or giving more sounds or be more attention, because when in our development, when we born, the first year is only movement, all the body movement. And when the kid start to walk, start to talk after that. So if you give a child all the proper movement, all the new connections, he's going also to start making sounds or talking or looking around, be more attentive, So what I want is to show is that those kids also have possibilities, many possibilities. So the only thing that you have to go to different paths to challenge them, look for their possibilities. Something that is very different is that when I receive a new family, that family start telling me all the things that the boy or girl cannot do. He cannot do sit, he cannot sit, he cannot roll, he cannot raise the head, all the problems about the kid. So I listen and I start writing, and I start to see how the family move around that kid and how the kid move around. And then I take the kid and I start to sense him and I start to put him in different situations. And probably the first day they say to me, he cannot stand. And probably the first day I'm putting in my hands and stand in and make the kid stand in my hands. I say, he can stand. He doesn't have equilibrium, but he can stand. So I'm using the forces of gravity, the forces around to make the vectors, to make the kid stand in my hand. Then I have to work in the equilibrium. And it's very easy to get the equilibrium. Very difficult to get the equilibrium. But I show the parents all the possibilities. So they give me a child with no possibilities, and an hour later, I return a kid with a lot of possibilities that we have to start working on and look for the capacities. I don't see the sickness. I see the capacities. When I don't compare a child for a normal child. I just work in that child and look for this type of capacity that can reach that guy, that boy or girl. So what I want to show is that, I want to show, look, this is disability, but this is a lot of capacity. Everybody comes here for something, and not everybody comes to walk or go to university. Some people come to be in silence, the monks, the religious person, and don't talk for many years. Some people come just to see you and laugh or smile. So this is something that one of the mothers of one patient told me. She has 6 kids. The last one, the youngest, is the girl with disability, with developmental disabilities. And she said to me, Candelaria is her name. Cande didn't come to this world to walk. She came to be around his brothers and sisters and make them more empathetic.
Oh, that's incredible.
That
is absolutely
So
incredible.
everybody comes to this world for something, and not everybody has to walk. Not everybody has to think or just to stay. Sometimes you have to stay and enjoy the smile and just the eyes, and just to stay. And this is something that community means to me, to celebrate the difference and to celebrate that everybody has a belonging in this community. Oh, this is what I want to show in my Instagram page, for example. I was very amazed that the last one of the last videos got 35 millions of people that watch it.
Yes, and that happened overnight.
35
right?
millions.
How did you feel about it? Because that happened overnight, probably.
Of course, it happened overnight, and my followers rose a lot. From 6,000 to 21,000, I think is now. But doesn't matter. Doesn't matter that I have the followers. It's not the followers that means to me. Mm-hmm. The good thing about that is that my Instagram page show disability, and the people got attention about that. Stop to see kids with disabilities and all the potential, all the things that I do with them. Look, this is not a boy that is sitting and not moving anything. These boys or these girls are kids that with full of possibilities or full of movement. So the only thing is that you have to go to another ways of communication, of course, too.
So to you, this is not a disability. To you,
no,
it's just it's a person.
It's a person with different capacities
and with a different purpose in life.
Exactly.
And with a different way to communicate, yes. Probably.
The only thing that is very important to me is that boy or girl grow very aligned, very with his body very straight. So I think it's necessary to do my type of work or whatever method you want to apply, or the family decided to work with them. But you have to, it's an obligation for me that a boy or a girl has to reach 15, 16 years old very straight, because it's going to be, if they reach at 16, 17, 15, between 16 to 17 years old, very straight, very aligned, they are going to be very healthy, or healthy at least,
Right.
Otherwise, if you don't work really hard with them, they are going to be turned. His back is going to be turned. They are not going to. His lungs are not going to expand. His legs are going to be tight. So these are the patients that probably will have pneumonia or cardiac problems. And what I want is to these children to be raised very healthy, because they are not sick. They are very healthy, just with the condition.
And then when you so this is the program that you developed, and this is your program. Nobody else.
I cannot say
run.
It's my program. I'm not the owner of Cuevas Medek Exercise. The owner is Ramon Cuevas in Chile. I learned from him. I try to develop this new way of looking at the children with the biomechanics, neuro-biomechanical stimulation. This is something that I am developing, mixing with all my knowledge from the background. You learn from many people. It's not something that I develop. Probably what I do is this. I'm very energetic. I'm very fun during my sessions. It's probably that is attractive to the families. And something that I'm developing and growing in myself is I'm very spiritual. And I start to talk and be very spiritual with my patient and try also to their families. And it's making me a better person first, but understand the soul of the boy or the girl. 5 years before, I wasn't like that. I was more working, pushing the boy, pushing the girl, to.
And what changed?
I got divorced 5 years ago. It was very sad for me after 18 years of marriage. And I was looking to heal my soul, and I started looking for ways to heal and understand why things happen, so I studied to be an ontologic coach also. Instead of look for a coach and an ontologic coach as a psychologist or something, I studied to be a coach. So I graduated from that 2 years later, and I start to apply, of course, to myself and then to the families and to my patients. And I think that make a great change, and my work start to rise. Everything start to.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
That once you start healing yourself, and through that healing, things change around. I'm just saying that because this is the path that I've been myself, and I see people around that healing is such a powerful process. Amazing.
I think I understand that if you are not in peace and be kind to yourself, you cannot be kind to another person. And I'm working a lot in that, and just it's like something that transcends my body to the body of my patients. I can see the soul. Sometimes I talk a lot in the ear of my patients.
And then the reason why I think that your program is unique, because I don't think it can be replicated by anybody else. Again, going back to the videos, and then I was seeing on social media that people were crying when they were seeing your videos, and I definitely think that that's connected to the spirituality that you're talking about and your personal journey.
I cry a lot with my patients. When we reach an exercise and the exercise is great, I start to cry because it's the kid and me, we are getting together to that place. So I'm trying to make it happen. And when it happened, it's like I'm enjoying myself too. And sometimes I get really emotional with that.
And then the times, I'm sure you have challenges. How do you overcome your challenges?
I see the challenges as something to go through with the joy. Since I became very spiritual and be kind to myself, I don't have more problems. I don't have any problems. I don't have nothing that is difficult for me. I just live that moment. I'm enjoying that moment here. And when we finish, I'm going to start looking for my drive to home, take my luggage and go to the airport. But since the challenges is something that I enjoy in the process, so I also asked to the parents. The parents always say to me, "He's going to walk." I said, "I don't know. He has all the conditions to walk, but I don't know if he's going to walk. Why? It's better to enjoy the process, all the things that he's getting, all the conditions he's summing, all the movement the boy is getting. So this is a miracle. Sometimes we look for a miracle. So the challenges is, okay, I would like to reach something. Okay, I'm going to work for that. It's not the miracle. It's not just that I raised, all these followers on the Instagram and jump up because for 14 years I've been working in this way and improving my way of working and looking for what is my sense of working and the way I want to work. And probably I will keep continue changing, improving probably. And I want the families to do the same, enjoy the moment and not look for the boy to walk or the girl to walk. Sometimes I say to the families, it's not that important to walk. Mm-hmm. Much more important is for the kid to think, to be cognitive okay.
Right.
To think. We had, for example, a vice president in wheelchair. So that woman didn't walk. Doesn't walk. Sorry. She doesn't walk. She had an accident when in his youngest age, and she doesn't walk. But she was a vice president. So the important thing is to think, to be cognitive. Stephen Hopkins, the scientific, he has his brain, the brilliant brain. So I always say to the parents when they give me, he's going to walk, he's going to move. I will try them to be functionally independent. I will try to do that with your kid. But the most important thing is that you make your child to be cognitive around you, to follow with your eyes.
And connection, because
the connection
that you're talking about.
This is the most important, that you talk to him and he smiles or he follows you. This is the most important thing. So walking, you put in the wheelchair with a motor wheelchair, it can go around. That is not important.
How do you establish that connection?
I think I'm like that, My sessions is like that, with a lot of laugh, a lot of conversation, and that connection become very easy. The parents like to come to my session. The whole family can. And the session is not boring, and is not heavy, looking for what the kid cannot do. It's always to look for fun, Let's try this, let's try that, And the connection become like that. When you start laughing, you start talking about anything, vacations, talk about the kid, and then we talk about vacation, and then we talk about projects, or sometimes the parents brings problems or something that is happening inside the family. When we talk, I try to relate, I try to suggest. We are working with the kid. So it's not about the disability. It's about life, It's
right.
about talking about life while we are working, and while we are improving the child's motor development. But I also improve myself. I learn a lot from the kids. I learn a lot from the families.
I know what I was going to say, that, two things really here, because I think, how we say that communication, it just, different people say, different theories say different numbers, but very often you can find that 10% is what information that is being said, but then 90% is all this nonverbal.
Mm-hmm.
nonverbal. It can be facial expressions, it can be eye contact,
Yes.
it can be tone of the voice. There are so many different things. And I'm curious, that is probably part of what you do, because it could be an eye contact, it could be connection that you have.
One of the things that I always say is that one of the first questions that you ask me is how many languages I speak. I say Spanish and English. But now I'm telling you, I speak so many languages with each of my kids. And that amazes me, because I perfectly communicate with each of my patients. And I had, by that time, many thousands, not thousands probably, but hundreds. And I communicate with each of them. Yes.
I can imagine, because it could be touch.
I talk to them. I talk to them with words, but I always say to the parents, the tone, the kid, not just a kid with special needs or a condition. All the kids, at youngest age, I think after 8 years old, you can start saying explanation of what you want. You say no because. But before 8 years old, you have to say no or yes, and the tone of your voice have to change. You know how you cannot. I say to the parents, you cannot say no in the same way you say I love you.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So the little kids understand the tone of your voice. So you have to say no as if they are putting the fingers in the electricity. Say really strong no. Mm-hmm. And when you are saying yes or a kind thing, you have to say as I love you. You know?
Yeah.
So I with my patient, I use a lot my different tones of voice. And I think they understand that. I talk a lot. I talk with words, but the tone, the variation of the tone is what it makes the connection and the understanding to them, between us.
I think so, yeah. Mm-hmm. That would be so... Mm-hmm. I can only imagine how much you can connect and how much you can learn from this connection. Mm-hmm. And that leads me to my next question. What can you learn from children?
What? Oh.
Yes, I'm sure that you probably learn a lot from interaction with children through your sessions, because the resilience probably is very mm-hmm. high. The resilience and that longing for life and belonging and family. I'm assuming, I don't know, I've never been in a situation like this.
Yeah, I think the resilience is one. You learn to be very grateful of what you have.
Probably, yes.
I'm very grateful that my boys are okay. For example, myself, mm-hmm. I'm very healthy. But also you learn to be empathetic to many kinds of people, mm-hmm. You learn how to listen. That nobody listens. Few people listen. I had to actually learn to listen, because I wasn't a person who listened very much before. 10 years ago, I didn't listen much. I learned how to listen. I learned the body movement. I learned from the face of the sad parents. And you start living today, This is the most important thing. Something that the parents why the parents are so sad, they expect a lot. When you are pregnant, you are expecting a child, you have a lot of expectations. And the problem is those expectations. Mm-hmm. I think the most thing that I learned is to live without expectation. That doesn't mean that I have dreams and I have projects, but I prefer to build those projects instead of imagine the end,
Yes.
I don't know if
You're absolutely hitting it. Yes, absolutely. There are so many problems in our life we bring to ourselves with the expectations.
Exactly.
But just to be grateful for the moment.
We're more worried about things that could not happen, and actually probably those things never happen, or things that will be really bad, and probably those things never happen. So why we don't live each moment at the time? So the only thing that I'm really worried is about sickness, so if a child got sick, I'm really worried. If if myself I got sick, I will be very, very worried. But if you live with happiness, enjoying your life, enjoying your moment, probably you don't get sick.
I'm sitting here next to you. I have to say you have such a positive and warm vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm just I came here to Buenos Aires just a day and a half ago, and I'm just okay. I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to now I'm sitting next to you. I'm like, you know what? This is all going to just align. There is one way or another things are going to.
My days of working are very long, I work like 9 to 10, and sometimes when I come back home, I have to do a lot of paperwork of my patients. And I have, I don't know, saying how would you say, a schedule, a book to schedule my week. And that, for me, is like a great example it's a great example to look from 1 hour to the other. So on Sunday afternoons, I write my whole week, all my patients and everything that I have to do each day. But I don't worry about what is going to happen on Friday. I'm just worried when it's Monday morning, I just worry about the first patient. So when I'm driving to my office, I start to think about that patient. I take 10 minutes between one patient to the other. I finish with that patient and I start to think to the next patient.
Because you want to make sure, I'm assuming it's because you want all your thoughts, all your energy is going to be concentrated on the patient that you're currently working with.
And I'm not worried about my kids. My kids one is in the United States, the other is at school. So I know I better know they are fine. And so I'm not worried about how tired I'm going to be at night. And just one step to the other. And I think it's a great suggestion to everybody to do. And to have written everything in that book, the schedule book, to put everything in the paper, I think is a great thing to do, because makes you don't expect how you are going to fit at the end of the day. Just expect the next one and just prepare for the next one. And so the energy renovates for the next one and renovates from the next one. And since I'm doing that, like 6 years ago, before I didn't do that, I learned from myself. I tried to do better things. And everything worked better. And I gained more patients, and I earn more money, and I produce better my work. So everything become better. But to be positive. And so
how do you stay positive in today's?
Because I don't have problems, because I live the moment.
Yeah, I was going to say, and today I just came from US. We are going through a lot of changes and uncertainty, and the communities are being very stressed, very stressed. You're heading there tonight. You probably will see that in New York. So in your case, I understand that your motivation is positive change for children and for the communities. So how do you keep that sanity? One step at a time. I understand that is your.
You have to train your mind. As you train your body, you have to train your mind.
So in your case, everything is here.
And in my book.
In your book, and making one step at a time.
Yes. Everything is
So
my
just
book, so I can
keep your mind
rely
clear.
everything in my book. Everything, if it changes, is going to be very tiredness for me. But I think I trained my mind to be like that. I wasn't like that. Actually, I was very sad. Many years I was very sad. I have a tumor, melanoma, a skin tumor, very bad tumor. But actually, I was very lucky. And after that, I changed a lot. My 7 months early that of my tumor, my mother died from breast cancer. And 7 months later, I realized that I have here, in your soul.
Oh God,
I have a big skin here. And after that, my set of mind started to change. I had to do it. I have to change. Otherwise I will be dead probably. I don't know. I have to change all my environment, many of my friends, or make my friends to understand my new me, and start to be really positive, living, not worry about anything, and living just the moment. And there's something that I always say. You have all the possibilities in front of you every morning. Every morning you have all the possibilities. The only thing you have to do is to turn on your flashlight and start lighting the things that you want. You can light the negative things, but also you can light the positive things. And it's what I do. And it's a train. You have to train your mind for that. It's what I do. Every morning, if it's raining, oh, how pleasure it's raining. If it's a Sunday, oh, nice, how nice is the sun. I get into my car, put some music, and I start singing. I start thinking in my first patient. And I start on my day, or if something is going to happen today, I was very excited about this. And I prepare my luggage and I start thinking about this podcast. I work 3 hours this morning too. So you just have to flashlight whatever you want, but the possibilities is for everybody. But if you just flashlight the positive things are going to come. Just Incredible. That. And this is what I try to transmit to my families, the families that work with me. And I think that is what I show in my Instagram, in the videos, all the positive things. I talk to my patient, and one of the last videos is with a little girl that I tell her that she's a princess. She has to raise her head because the crown is going to fall. So she has to raise her chin to keep up the crown, And, just focus in that moment and enjoy that moment and make a joy of that moment. And if you live your day in that way, you're just flashing the positive things. And positive things are attracted all the time. You have to train your mind for that. This is what I think the community have to change. My community, I embrace my community to do that. Many parents say to me, "Oh, Elena, we don't have your energy for that." And I always remind them, many of my patients are with me like 10, 12 years, from 10 to 12 years ago. And I always remember them. You go through all my stages,
Yeah, journey.
I have patients that were with me when my parents died, when I had the tumor, when I got divorced. So they know me all through my last 10 years probably. And I always say to them, if I can, probably you can do it. Probably you can. Not everybody can, but probably it's a good way to try at least,
Incredible.
It's nicer to live like that, I think.
Incredible journey.
It's nicer. And this is what I think I transmit in my sessions. My session is like that, always like that, with this smile and with this type of conversations. And we learn from each other. But it's a train. I have to train. Sometimes I feel sad, of course, or sometimes I worry about my kid in the United States. He had a really he bumped his head. He plays rugby, my oldest, in his with a scholarship, rugby scholarship in Miami, and he bumped his head in one of the games, and I was really worried. But I always think positive. Nothing is going to he was okay and was nothing to worry, but I always trust in university, in universe, sorry. I always trust in universe. If something happens, it's because it has to happen, If something happened to me or to my kids, it's because it has to happen, and I will have to learn about that. And I am not and also I'm not worried about to die, or yes, I'm not worried about to die. Not even myself, and not even my kids, actually. Because I think we are in a phase. You jump to another phase, always to improve yourself. I think we are in a phase, always everybody born and die. And some people die very early and some people die very late. And this is just a phase. I know when my mother was very strong, very tough woman. And she has similar energy as me, but she didn't have all the knowledge to, I think because of that she got sick. But, when my mother died, I never miss her, never. Because I think she's just around me. All the time I feel her, all the time. My father sometimes, but my mother, that she was very strong, I always feeling around her. She's around me all the time. So I think we are in a phase, And the important thing is our soul. So it's not important if you walk, if you talk, it's your soul the important thing. And we have to be very careful with the boys and the girls that I'm working, because you can ruin also that soul. And you manipulate in really bad way that soul. I'm trying not to be like that. I'm really caring about that.
You have incredible approach, and the results are right there. And what is the next for you? What is the next for you? Because you have such a journey. You started healing yourself, then you're healing the community, and you keep evolving.
I will try to work with patients as much as I can, but it's a physical work. I have to put my physique in my body to work, and sometimes I get very tired too. I would like to do it until I can, but I also love to talk. I love what we are doing now. So if in some way I can start to be a speaker, to be a communicator, sending a message that someone would like to listen. I'm writing a book also.
That is incredible.
I'm writing a book, showing all, when you get pregnant, you always think that everything is going to be okay. And you always say, I just hope that is boy or girl, nothing doesn't matter. The good thing is that I just hope that the child is healthy. And you never really imagine that something can happen. So, can happen. And I think it's going to happen much more in the next years. I think in the next 20 years, probably everybody is going to have a child with developmental disabilities. And you know why I think that? Because the neonatal, the NICU, the neonatal intensive care unit has more technological things that keep the babies, the 25 weeks babies, survive, make them survive. The pharmaceuticals are trying new medicines, synthetic medicines, the stem cell, the new way of stem cell, the new machines that. So these child in the 90s, children probably live few years and then they die. Now they are alive for a long time. And I think in the next few years, more kids with developmental disabilities are going to be alive, are going to be will be surviving. Mm-hmm. So, 1 year, like 3 years ago, I have 4 friends from school, a group of 4 friends. Each of them have a child with disabilities. From the same group of high school group, 4 of the friends has a kid with developmental disabilities.
Yeah, that definitely the society and the communities are changing. And
mm-hmm. So the society have to change the view of disabilities.
Right.
Everybody has a place in the community. So we have to find that the government has to change the mind to start looking for these people with disability, because the years to come, there's going to be more and more and more. Everybody, I think, is going to have a relative with disability.
That's
sign that
to
you.
I think it's very true.
So the government is going to have to change that, the laws, the obligations of the healthcare insurance. These people has to have a place in the community. So I think it's very important to start seeing. That is why when my Instagram page jump up, I say, okay, this is nice because the people is looking at disabilities, not only families with a disabled boy or girl. The whole community is seeing that.
Yeah, because inclusion, I think diversity and inclusion is becoming a part of our life, and I hope it's not going to change.
Sorry? Say.
Diversity and inclusion is being looked differently, and it's definitely engraved into our life, and I really hope it's not going to change.
I think people in the community will start looking with empathetic and nicer way, relate with all type of diversity. The school here in Argentina, Buenos Aires there is a lot of there are many places that where the kids can be included. There are a lot of doctor therapists. This is one of the nicest places to live with disabilities. I work with families from United States that come to me, Latin America, Ecuador, Colombia, Uruguay, and they don't have anything over there. In United States, for example, now I finished working 2 weeks program, intensive program with a girl from Washington, from Virginia, and the mother come here because here she finds more therapies, more facilities for her girl. In the United States, all private and very expensive. And so for her, and she said, if my girl has to go to school, she has to go to a regular school. Here we have a special needs schools. And we different for blindness, for ear impairs, for cerebral palsies, for many type of kids. We hope more. We wish we have more, but at least we have some.
Yeah, and that's why I'm very inspired by the conversation, and your Instagram page is growing, which means that your voice is growing, and we need your voice.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, and I am sure we are all going to be very inspired by this conversation. If there is one message you want our listeners to kind of like be the essence of this conversation, what that would be?
To be open to diversity and celebrate the difference.
Thank you. I wouldn't say it better. Let's remember, and let's be curious and open to diversity, and let's make our society as inclusive as we can for everyone. Thank you very much, Elena. That was an incredible conversation.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. You really made me feel so good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in into Connected Conversation. As we continue on our first year, we are incredibly inspired by the potential of positive change within our communities. We invite you to be a part of our conversation, and we invite you to be a part of our journey. Please subscribe to our podcast to stay updated on our latest episodes. Your support is incredibly invaluable. It will help us to grow our community. We also encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments of each episode. Your feedback will help us to create even more meaningful conversations. We can inspire the change and connect with each other one conversation at a time.